Hi, it's Ashley. Thanks for coming back to listen to me talk some more about mixed orientation marriages and how in the world you're gonna survive it. Um, I don't have the answer to that because I'm no longer married to my gay husband. We were married for 13 years, divorced for 9, just in case you're seeing me for the first time and don't know the backstory. I've got the sun right behind me, and I'm gonna try to keep my phone right here, or else it gets kind of like weird. Today I want to talk to you about justification and how those of us in mixed orientation marriages justify staying in them. And this is a self-talk that we do on a daily basis sometimes. And I think it's absolutely destructive. So, justification. I have a friend who is in a mixed orientation marriage, and he was approached by someone who is currently in a mixed orientation marriage for some advice. This woman was in, or still is in, her marriage of 30 plus years. And all of her kids with her husband are grown and gone, but she still feels trapped. And we can talk about how feeling trapped and justifying, kind of works hand in hand. And this woman confided to my friend that she had had an affair with a woman and they were desperately in love with each other, and this woman was also in a mixed orientation marriage. The relationship ended. I won't say how because those details might give something away. Someone might recognize part of the story, and I wouldn't want that to happen. But this woman is absolutely depressed. And maybe she didn't go to my friend just so much for advice as much as just someone to listen who would get it, But she talked about how she's in therapy, but they're not in couples therapy. And I don't think that's, or necessarily ridiculous. Although I, probably used a word like ridiculous when my friend told me about this, but I'm fairly certain that the husband, who is the straight spouse, doesn't feel like he needs therapy because he doesn't have a problem. Or he's not the one with the problem. Or however he's looking at it, but it probably comes down to something like that. So how does this woman, how does anybody in a mixed orientation marriage justify it? Here are some insights that I have on that. Again, having been in my marriage for 13 years and still, thinking about it a lot in the 9 years that I've been divorced. Having lots of time to process and see it from different angles, et cetera, et cetera. Here's how I justified it. So I was very devoted to a religion. I'm not trying to be secretive about it, but it was the Mormon religion. And you know, we can talk all day about how the Mormon Church looks at sexuality, how they feel and talk about homosexuality, and how they're supposed to be evolving, but not really. But the biggest part for me, justifying staying in my marriage, besides my kids, which I'll get to, was the whole ideology around a marriage between two members of the Mormon Church who have been married in the temple. And to save anyone from boredom who may not be Mormon, who is listening to this, I'll make it very short and sweet. So, when you're married in the temple in the Mormon Church, it is really the culmination of your existence. You've made it. You've done the greatest of all ordinances that can be done within that religion. Also, it is taught that you have to be married in the temple to get to the highest level of heaven. Yes, Mormons have levels of heaven. And obviously, to be married in the temple, it can't be to someone of the same sex, because Mormons. So, to throw that away, to discard that marriage, to leave that marriage, to end that marriage, is to end your chance at the highest level of heaven. To basically rip up your ticket to that show. And what's so great about the highest level of heaven? Well, that is the only level where you get to see God. So, yeah, it's kind of a big deal. And then I know there are non-religious people out there, and atheists too, I'm sure, who are just like, who gives a fuck about living with God? But when you're a Mormon, He is your heavenly Father, and He wants you back with Him. So it's not just disappointing yourself, but disappointing Him as well. Pretty great, right? That was the huge justifier. In any, I would say, Christian religion or religion that supports or condones marriage only between a man and a woman, I would say that that's a huge justifier, regardless of what it means to you in the afterlife specifically. But in general, you know, your gay spouse in these religions can't get to heaven if they're gay, and my hand that is holding the phone just started shaking, so you probably noticed that. They can't get to heaven if they're gay, or if they're living the gay lifestyle, right? And this is just a blanket statement about Christian religions, or again, any religion that only condones marriage between man and woman. And so the straight spouse might feel a responsibility towards that gay spouse to stay in the marriage, because if they don't, then the gay spouse is probably going to come out of the closet and do gay things and go to hell. And then how will that religious straight spouse live with themselves, right? So, but then from the gay spouse perspective, it's, well, I have to stay. I justify staying in this marriage because I don't want to go to hell. I want to go to heaven. So there's the religious component, right? So set that aside for a minute. And then let's talk about the justification of, well, we have kids, so we can't get divorced. I think even in 2019, there are a lot of different schools of thought on this. I think it's total bullshit. I don't think that you ruin your child's lives by getting a divorce. I think that if your marriage isn't working for whatever reason, if your marriage is dysfunctional and you can't figure out how to make it work for whatever reason, and in my opinion, mixed orientations don't work. Even if the couple stay together for years and years and years in their whole lives until they die, that relationship wasn't working. It wasn't good. It wasn't constructive. Sure, some good things came out of it, just like some good things came out of mine, and not just the kids. But going back to the sentence that I started, if your marriage isn't working and you have kids, I think you are giving your children a gift by sitting down with them and saying, being married to mom or being married to dad, or us being married, mom and dad, isn't working anymore. And give them a very general idea of why it's not working, and give them more specifics as they get older late in life. Yes, it's going to suck. Divorce is tragic for kids. But the level, the magnitude of that tragedy does not have to be completely detrimental to them, to their development, to their happiness. If anything, it will teach them, A, not all relationships you're going to be in are going to work. B, you could get married and have kids and be unhappy. And C, you have the option of ending the marriage and finding happiness elsewhere, whether that's just never getting married again, which I'm probably not going to ever do, or finding another romantic partner. But being beholden to the children as justification to staying in the marriage, I feel, again, I'm not an expert. This is just me talking. This is just Ashley talking. I feel, truly, is the most detrimental of the choices. My parents still together. My ex's parents, they were together until my former father-in-law passed away. They weren't great examples of marriage. And myself and my sister and my brother were all divorced. So the whole, we've got to stay together to teach our kids that couples should stay together is total bullshit. And the only advice that I would want to give you, the only real, here's a nugget of advice, is that it's a case-by-case situation. There's no hard and fast rule. And if there's a psychologist or therapist listening to this who believes that there is, then I'm all for that, because I'm a huge believer in therapy and psychology and mental health. But go with your gut. And as a couple, if it's possible, approach this with complete and utter honesty and openness? Are we justifying this because we're afraid of what might happen if we split? Have we really worked on this and tried everything that we can? My husband and I did, and guess what? He's still gay and I'm still straight. And what is the healthiest thing to do? Is the healthiest thing to do to continue justifying the fact that this isn't working and that we're unhappy? I think about the woman that I mentioned at the beginning of this video, married for over 30 years. All the children are grown and don't even live in the state anymore. And like, really, what is the justification there? To stay together. To remain in the relationship that is not edifying anybody. So, again, like a lot of my videos, this is just some riffing, just my surfacey thoughts on the particular topic for the video, today of which was justification. What is it you're justifying? Continuing to be unhappy? And why? What is greater than your happiness?